Welcome to Storytime, where real stories unfold. Stories that shock, stories that inspire, and stories that stay with you long after they're told. If you enjoy real stories, make sure you subscribe, follow, and like. New stories drop 3 times a week. Now, let's get into today's story. Welcome to Storytime, where
3 young boys died in the same house within just 13 months. Doctors first believed it was a heartbreaking medical mystery, but when the 3rd baby died, investigators noticed something terrifying. Every single time a child died, their mother had been the only adult in the room, and when detectives finally asked her what happened, she told them, "Stay locked in, because tonight's story is one of the most disturbing family cases investigators have ever seen." Tonight's case takes us to Ohio, where a young family experienced tragedy after tragedy. 3 young boys would die within just over a year. At first, doctors searched for medical explanations, but eventually investigators began to realize they might not be dealing with a medical mystery, they might be dealing with murder. Long before Brittany Pilkington became the focus of a homicide investigation, her life had already been shaped by trauma. According to statements she later made, Brittany experienced sexual abuse starting when she was around 9 years old. She said the abuse involved her stepfather, Joseph Pilkington, who was responsible for caring for her at times when she was young. Over time, Brittany claimed the situation escalated into repeated assaults during her childhood and teenage years. Those allegations would later become central to discussions about Brittany's mental health and emotional development. When Brittany was 17 years old, she became pregnant. Just 2 months after turning 18, she married Joseph. Their relationship would later be described by Brittany as deeply controlling and emotionally unstable. Despite the chaos, the couple built a family together. They eventually had 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. From the outside, they appeared like any other young family trying to make life work. But behind closed doors, investigators would later discover a far more troubling story. In July of 2014, Brittany's life changed forever. Her 3-month-old son, Niall Pilkington, was found unresponsive. Doctors believed the death could be explained by sudden infant death syndrome, also known as SIDS. Although devastating, the death was treated as a tragic natural event. The family mourned, friends offered condolences, and no one suspected that something darker might have happened. But months later, tragedy struck again. Not long after Niall's death, Brittany's 4-year-old son Gavin also died. 2 children from the same household dying in such a short time was deeply concerning. Doctors began investigating whether a rare genetic disorder affecting male children could explain the deaths. Authorities even took extra precautions when Brittany's youngest son, Noah, was born. At one point, officials sought an emergency order to keep the infant in the hospital temporarily so doctors could monitor him. But investigators could not find evidence of abuse. Without proof of wrongdoing, Noah was eventually allowed to return home. What happened next would change everything. Just 6 days after returning home, 3-month-old Noah Pilkington died. At that moment, investigators realized something was terribly wrong. 3 young boys, 3 deaths, all within 13 months. And in each case, Brittany had been the one caring for the child at the time. The investigation shifted immediately. Detectives began examining the deaths as potential homicides. Eventually, Brittany was brought in for questioning. The interview lasted for hours. Detectives carefully walked through the timeline of each child's death. At first, Brittany insisted she had done nothing wrong, but as the questioning continued, her story began to change. Eventually, she admitted that she had suffocated her 3 sons. Her explanation shocked investigators. According to Brittany's statement, she believed her husband favored the boys over their daughter, Haley. She said Gavin was his favorite child. Over time, this belief created feelings of resentment and emotional distress. After the first boy died, she said her husband became closer to the remaining sons, and that made her feel even more ignored. Eventually, she convinced herself that removing the boys would change the family dynamic. She admitted she did not want to witness the moment of death, so she covered their faces. When detectives asked if she felt remorse, Brittany said she did. She even told investigators she wished she had ended her own life instead. But the case would soon become far more complicated. After her arrest, Brittany's attorneys argued that the confession should not be allowed in court. They claimed Brittany had cognitive limitations, including an IQ reportedly around 78. Medical experts also testified that Brittany suffered brain damage from lead poisoning as a child. A neuropsychologist told the court that Brittany may not have understood the interrogation process. According to the defense, she may have simply repeated what investigators suggested. They described the confession not as voluntary, but as a capitulation. The judge carefully reviewed the interrogation recording. Investigators had read Brittany her Miranda rights twice. They offered her food, water, and breaks during the 9-hour interview. Although the interrogation was lengthy, the court found no evidence that police forced her confession. The judge ultimately ruled that most of Brittany's statements could be used as evidence. The Pilkington case remains one of the most disturbing family tragedies in Ohio. 3 young boys lost their lives, and the story continues to spark debate. Some believe Brittany's confession reveals the full truth. Others believe her traumatic upbringing and psychological struggles may have played a role in what happened. But one fact remains unchanged. 3 innocent children never had the chance to grow up. Cases like this remind us that the truth behind a crime is rarely simple. Sometimes investigators uncover stories shaped by trauma, broken families, and psychological struggles. But no explanation can undo the loss of 3 young lives. If you want more real cases like this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Storytime. And tell me in the comments, do you believe Brittany's confession tells the full story? Or do you think something deeper may have happened in this case? Stay locked in, because the next story might be even darker.
And that's the end of the video. If this video kept you locked in, make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Your support helps bring more real stories to the channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you're the first to know when a new story drops. We post real stories 3 times a week. Until the next one, stay locked in. Real stories only. This is Storytime.